After 3 months with not a single job, I'm out. One less person in the way. That was a comment that was made on the video that I shared with you yesterday. Actually, during the live stream, we talked about, called a VO Straight Talk, the truth about voiceover, about any business, building any business. And I wanted to share that comment with you because that is what I'm talking about. And I see that happen over and over again because expectations are completely out of line. After 3 months without a single job, they're out. And this is not a criticism of the person who left the message. It's just an example of a prevalent mindset. And I don't want you to get caught up in that because the reason I am here, and by the way, my name is Bill DeWeese, professional voiceover talent, voiceover coach. I'm here to help you build a profitable voiceover business. I equate profitability with success. Otherwise, it's a hobby. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want to do it to make money, that's why we're here. So the 3 months without a single job, that would be much like a farmer saying, well, I'm going to plant a field of corn. Plant the corn. 3 weeks later says, well, this is not working. I'm out. You have to grow. You have to grow and cultivate and nurture a harvest, whether it's in business, whether it's, from an agricultural point of view, whether it's growing a relationship. It doesn't happen quickly oftentimes. The best things typically don't happen all that fast. 3 months and you're not even really, you're barely started. You're just you're laying the groundwork. You're doing the hard work, and you're not getting seemingly much back because that's the way it all starts off. Any business, voiceover or any other business, you're trying to overcome inertia. You're getting the snowball going so that eventually it can roll down the hill. But 3 months, you've barely started. And if 3 months is too long, then this is probably not for you. But if this is the dream and this is where you want to go, you want to create you have a long-term vision for yourself and for those you care about the most, benefiting from your success in voiceover, I just want to encourage you to hang around. Today, as I promised, it came up yesterday on the live stream. And by the way, make sure that you check in on the live stream. Let me know who you are, where you're listening from. We'll do a little quick roll call here at the end of the video as we usually do. I was asked to share my voiceover story. So don't worry, I won't give you the War and Peace version of it. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of it. But everybody's story is different. It's unique, but we all have our story. We all have the path that we follow to get where we're going. And certainly I think my story is interesting and unique and in some ways maybe not as extraordinary as you would hope that it would be. But at the same time, hopefully it's encouraging and motivating. I didn't think about the idea of any kind of work behind a microphone until I was 12 years of age. At the ripe old age of 12, I developed the dream that I wanted to be on the radio. And all I knew at that point in time was I loved music, but beyond music, at that point in time, radio was very community-driven. It was very personality-driven. The people on the air were pretty much as important as the artists that were being played, the vinyl records that were being played at that point in time. It was a very creative medium. It was very entertaining. And I caught the bug for it. And I just knew that's what I wanted. And I never wavered from that. At 12 years of age, when dreams are very delicate things, and I think dreams are seeds that are planted in us by our Creator to give us a sense of our purpose and direction. And what's interesting is that seed, it sprouted very slowly over a period of not months, but years. And here I am 51 years later, and that dream is still evolving and changing. I could have never dreamt at 12 years of age that at this point in time, when a lot of my contemporaries are retiring from work, that I haven't even hit my stride yet. And that's exciting for me. I love it. And I think that's one of the benefits of voiceover is that it's not just a young person's game. I mean, it certainly can be, but there are people, into their 90s who record voiceovers. And maybe I'll be the first person to take it beyond. Maybe I'll be the one to write a book about what it's like to record voiceovers at 100. Talk about dreams, right? We'll see what happens with that. But the interesting thing is, I wasn't surrounded with anything else aside from a radio that you could have predicted my future from. I lived, a very regular, normal life. My dad was a glass factory worker. My mom was a stay-at-home mom who later worked within the school system, worked in the cafeteria, different cafeterias at the school, then later became a head cook in one of the schools after I started school. But she stayed home with my sister and I while we were still little. And there was nothing there where somebody said, hey, where I saw a family member who was involved. And by the way, forgive me, the sniffles, it's just as typical. It's just allergies here this morning. I'll try to keep that to a minimum. But, nobody that I watched or saw within my immediate family that made me want to do that. It was just, this fascination with media and wanting to be involved in that. I had, parents they were great and encouraging. And my dad's biggest fear was that I would end up doing what he did, because I know he hated his job. He never said it, but he did not, at any expense, he did not want me to follow his path. And he encouraged me, to go to college and to pursue whatever it is that I wanted to, which was, not everybody has parents who encourage that or nurture that in them. And so that's one thing I'm really very, very, very grateful for. And I remember once telling my dad, we were having a conversation about what I wanted to do with my life. And I said I wanted to work in radio. And he said, son, don't just work in radio. He said, own the radio station. That was his mindset. And I loved it. And it really inspired me throughout my life to think that way, because I knew it's something that he wanted. He didn't have really the background or the tools, and once he had a family, really the opportunity to do that. But he wanted that, for his kids. So I get involved in radio, and just a few little anecdotal things. And again, I'm not going to give you the War and Peace version, but so I go to college. I meet who is now my wife, Vicki, and we get married our junior year. So we're 20 years old. We got married at a very young age. But then and by the way, those are, a lot of good memories, but it was rough financially. It was hard. It was so hard. I remember my last year of school, between us, we worked 6 part-time jobs over the course of that year. Times where we'd go to the grocery store. We'd go to the grocery store with one of those little counters. I say we, Vicki did. She's the one who kept track of this. She'd have the little counter so she could add up the total of the groceries. And there were times when we get to the grocery checkout and find out that we had more in our cart than we could afford, than having to take food back. It was just, we weren't destitute, but it was hard. It was a struggle. But we got through that. I graduated. I went out immediately and began interviewing for radio jobs. And one of the first stations I interviewed with offered me a job to start the next morning. On the air the next morning. I was blown away. I was so excited, you can't even imagine. But here's the punchline. So I drive home. It's an hour and a half away from where we live. Excuse me. And I get home, and Vicki, you're not going to believe this. I was offered a job. I start tomorrow at the radio station. It was my dream, coming true. And of course, Vicki she's the accounting mind of the family, and the voice of reason, and of dollars and cents. And she said, so how much are you going to make? And I said, I have no idea. I didn't even ask. I was so excited that I got the job. I could have cared less. The reality is that first year, we're talking early 80s, I made less than $10,000. It was $9,000 and some, $9,000 something that first year. But personally, I'm sure Vicki wished that we had made more. I could have cared less. I was just, I was living my dream. Of course, as years gone by, I've become a little more, I think, reasonable. Once you have kids and a mortgage and car payments, all those kind of things, you have to start to think about reality. But, I worked in radio for a long time, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, but I thought that was the dream. But the dream then began to evolve in my mind and in my heart. And I remember in the 90s. And so in the 90s, I had been recruited by a university in the Chicago area, a small private college, Olivet Nazarene University. They wanted me to manage. They had a 35,000 watt FM radio station. In addition, they had a campus operation for their students. Then they had this station, and they wanted to develop it, but they also wanted to create educational opportunities for students. So they wanted me to manage it, and so I was able to program it, fundraise, and man, we raised the fundraising just exploded because I think the programming that we were able to develop really appealed to the market, and we were able to integrate students into a professional staff who were mentored, and I loved doing that. So that's been a thread throughout my entire career. And so I left that in 2005 and worked for a business consulting firm there in the Chicago area, and then went to work for a corporate learning services company where I learned a lot about the internal workings of the corporate environment as it relates to training and performance improvement. And then that company went out of business. This is 2006. So in 2006, the company's in the process of going down. And so this is my Hail Mary pass, voiceover, because back in the 90s, which I started to say and then I skipped over it, was that I started to develop this idea that voiceover is something I would like to do. But at the time, and this is really important because to understand the evolution of business in voiceover, at that time, the business model was you get an agent, and you get an agent by you get some training, you get a demo produced, then you find an agent who's willing to represent you. But then you would have to be available to drive into your agent's office. So for me, it was almost an hour's drive into the Loop, downtown Chicago, because I lived out and because, that's where my work was at. And so, if I were able to get an agent, then I would have to be willing to drive 2 hours round trip. This is not including parking and time spent sitting your turn to audition in the office, for one audition. And then if you get the job, it's the same thing. It's another half day of coming back to do the job. Point being, it was not with a family, being married at that point. We're still married, but at that point, having 3 kids is what I was trying to say. The family had grown. And so with those responsibilities, it just wasn't realistic for me to pursue voiceover. So I didn't. Well, fast forward 2006, the company I'm working for is going out of business. And I've got to do something. Well, at that point, the internet was in full swing, obviously, and online e-commerce was developing. Voice123 and Voices.com had just launched, just prior to all of this. Of course, we hadn't quite hit the recession, but that was coming very soon. And I just gathered what information I could. There wasn't nearly as much information, obviously, available back then as now. But I got it together, and I did the best that I could. And I did what I was told to do. I got an agent, and then I got another agent and another agent and another agent, and I just wasn't booking enough work to stay afloat. So I figured I've got to do this on my own. So I started shaking the bushes, so to speak, figuratively speaking, and asking myself, well, who hires voiceover talent? Content producers, where are they? And I just started Googling and finding and calling and emailing, and then I was auditioning on pay-to-play platforms, Voice123, Voices.com. And early on, if you feel like you're like this person who mentioned, 3 months not a job, that I'm out. You start to feel that way. But then eventually I got my first job, and I got it on Voices.com after a lot of trying. And I'll never forget it. It was a $200 job for a telephone on hold message for a company. So $200, I mean, even today, that's a really good price for that. And it wasn't much work at all. But back then it was even more. Back when $200 really meant something. And so I recorded the project and made that money. And it occurred to me at that point in time that if one person was willing to hire me, I bet there's another person out there who would be willing to hire me. And so there it began. And now over 10,000 paid projects later, here I am. And then 10 years ago, after many people asking me for help with their business, launched into a voiceover coaching career alongside my voiceover career, which I continue to develop and do on a full-time basis. So that's my story. And that's what brings me to where I'm at today. That's hopefully that gives you a sense of why I feel the way I feel about voiceover, the passion that I have for it, my love of helping to develop talent, because it goes way back to my days in radio. That's what I did as a program director and as a station manager. Even while working on the air, I always loved to develop talent. My days as a college professor and teaching, loving to teach and help people learn and to be successful. And bringing that, again, into this evolution of that dream, which I could have never even imagined all those many years ago. But to know that these things can evolve and stay with you throughout your life. They may present themselves in different iterations and may look different, but it's always exciting and it's always new and fresh. And yeah, so it's that's how I got to where I'm at and why we're sitting here today. So you asked for it, you got it. There's the story. Well, hey, thanks for checking in on the live stream. Let me get a little sip of coffee here, and then we'll do a little roll call. By the way, for those of you who are not in my VoiceOver Blueprint program, shame on you. No, I'm totally kidding about that. But seriously, I would love to have you in the program. Go to the links below in the description. You're going to find a bunch of resources, but that first link there is going to be your offer for 30 days, all access to my entire program. So I think a 3-month intensive. Think where this person who posted, hey, 3 months in and nothing, I'm out. Think where they would be if they had been in my VoiceOver Blueprint program, getting proper direction and guidance and mentoring for those 3 months. Where would they be today? Click the link, get the information, get in the program, and let's get things moving for you. All right? Okay, Philip, it's 55 and clear in Tokyo. Hey, Phil, thanks for checking in. Appreciate it. We're hoping to hit a high of about that here in Cincinnati. Janet in Florida. Hey, what's happening? John, good morning. Brent, St. Louis. And, Chile, South Carolina. Of course, you define Chile and South Carolina differently than we define it in Ohio, which is defined even differently in Minnesota and Canada, right? And Alaska. Let's not even, we could go on and on. Steve in Oshkosh, what's up? Susan in New Jersey. Hi, Sandra in Cape Town. Thanks for always being real with us. Oh, thank you, Sandra. I do my best. I think it's just helpful to know the truth about things because after a while, the shiny packaging and the pretty ribbon we like to put on everything, after a while, you realize that, yes, this is a wonderful thing to do. I mean, it's the best or I wouldn't do it. But there's work involved. There certainly is work. Hey, John. Good morning to you in the Chicago burbs. Steve, what's up in Bucyrus? Gertie, what's happening in Belgium? Where it's a little after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Hope you're having a good day, Gertie. Hey, Barb in Ann Arbor, Michigan, what's up? We're going to be friends for now. But, Barb, I just got to tell you, once we get toward the end of the college football season here, and when Ohio State and Michigan take the field, for that day, for those 3 hours, I'm not sure that we can be friends. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, Barb. Hey, Randy in Clearfield, what's up? Edward, Lake of the Ozarks. Mark in San Antonio. Hey, David. Robert, listening in on the live stream from Springfield. Good to have you on this morning, Robert. Thierry, what's up? Good to have you back on. Let's see. Texas, making the live stream this morning. Rusty in the Upper Peninsula. Man, I saw some of the footage from Michigan yesterday. It's brutal. I'm sorry. Now, if you love snow, you're saying, what are you sorry about? We live for this stuff. And maybe you've got your mucklucks and your snow machine and all that kind of stuff. And if so, God bless you. Enjoy it. But I see at least in parts of Michigan, it's a lot of snow. And I'm sure more so in the UP. Jan from Johannesburg, South Africa. Good morning. Cameo from Oklahoma. How are you doing? Galen in Cincinnati. Gilly in the St. Louis suburbs. Scott, Chicago-ish. I know, like Chicagoland, it's a big swath of real estate. My gosh. It goes almost from Wisconsin all the way over to Northwest Indiana, a big chunk of Northwest Indiana. It is a huge area. Steve, okay, what's up? Rob, on the way to the airport to fly to Jacksonville. Not on the airlines. Oh, okay. So you're flying yourself. Awesome. Well, safe travels today, Rob. Hey, David, checking in from Cologne, Germany instead of Louisville, Kentucky while on a business trip. Awesome. Hope your trip goes smoothly. Tell all our friends out that way. I said, hey. Hey, Casey in Kansas City. Theo. Howdy from the swanky upper level of the Metro train on my way into Chicago. I love it. I love it. Let's see here. Billy, good day from Melbourne, Australia. Good day to you too, Billy. Hey, John in Lake Wawasee. Is Lake Wawasee, is that Georgia, South Carolina? Lemuel, Fort Wayne. What's up? John, good morning to you in Harleysville. Bruce in Louisville. Hey, John in upstate South Carolina. How are you doing? Amanda, Alabama. Good morning. Steve, what's up? Wanted to be a DJ since he was 12, also after listening to CKLW. CKLW, what a great radio station. There were some great radio stations I grew up listening to. WCFL in Chicago, CKLW, which of course is in Canada. Not to mention some of the local stations, but those stations at night especially those AM stations would travel at nighttime, and I would fight for a signal, and I would just sit and listen to my radio hours on end. I would rather do that than watch TV or anything else. Doug in Greensboro, North Carolina. All right. Yeah, and by the way, Doug is saying he can't wait for tomorrow, which is our live Q&A. Tomorrow is going to be the live Q&A. So if you have a question, bring it to the party tomorrow and share it, and I'll answer as many questions as I can. What a crazy coincidence. In Wisconsin, my father worked for a glass factory. Yeah, I didn't know. I guess, I didn't know there was more than one. I guess it would make sense. Anchor Hocking was the company, but I guess there are multiple glass companies. That would make sense. Bruce, I thought you were in your 40s. Man, I wish. What's my secret? It's good living, Bruce. No, I think it's doing what I love to do helps, but I've got longevity in my family. I've got, my gosh, I remember my great-grandfather lived to 96. My grandfather was in his 90s. My mom is in her 80s and in her mid-80s, and man, she is sharp as a tack. She's hilarious. She's funny. She would do much better on this live stream than I would. She is the life of the party, that's for sure. She's a good lady. Will in Arkansas, good morning. Johnny in Houston, Bob in Reedsville, North Carolina, Carl Lynn in Lake Como, Italy. She loves my idea about going to the UK for a VO seminar. I'll meet you there, and at lunch we can all eat toast together. Absolutely, we can have toast together. How fun would that be? And I'm serious. I mean, and I said the UK. I mean, it could be any place in Europe. But if you're part of a group or you want to somehow coordinate and sponsor an event there, and get a bunch of folks together, let me know. We'll see. Walt, St. Louis, Missouri. Hey, Jolie, how are you doing? Up in cold Minnesota. Bruce says, I bet Vicky was pleased with the Chevrolet paycheck. The Find New Roads paycheck, yeah. We were all pleased with it. Yeah, I'll tell you what it went towards. It went towards a new in-ground swimming pool. And, of course, back then, now you try to buy an in-ground pool. The prices of everything I just can't believe. There's things I like to do. We just bought this house 2 years ago, and the basement needs to be finished. I would love to. The backyard's gorgeous as it is. There's a big outdoor kitchen. There's a gas fire pit and a little kind of like a gazebo area, but it's the builders. I mean, it's pretty awesome. But I'd love to put an in-ground pool back there, but I can't even imagine. I got to think now that's like $100,000 to $150,000 maybe. Whereas a few years ago it was closer to $50,000, $60,000. Don't quote me on that. I'm just from stuff I've heard from other folks. That there's probably a lot of variables involved there. Donna, first time catching me live in Dubuque, Iowa, from Dubuque, Iowa. Donna, good morning. Glad to have you here. Michael in Connecticut. Started working in voiceover in April of 2019. Hasn't worked yet. I've had quite a bit of training, even via Blueprint. I have the tools required. I'm still not giving up. Michael, if you're in the Blueprint, make sure you are attending all of the webinars. I do SAI. It's not always me. I have other experts that assist in different areas, but I provide a live training almost every day of the month, between 25 to 28 sessions per month, in addition to all of the on-demand content. So if you're not, I'm not saying you're not participating. I'm just saying if you're not, make sure that you are, because the people who get that feedback on an almost daily basis, they're the ones who tend to do the best. So plug in. It's a system. Plug into it. Take advantage of it. Hasn't done the marketing. There you go, Michael. Yeah, well, you've got to do it. And there's no doubt, it's the hardest part of it. But once you do it, it's actually fun. There's no greater feeling. Yesterday, I compared it to a golf shot. That's a pretty great feeling, a good golf shot. But when you market and you get a response and then get a job, it's, knowing that you helped make that happen, that's an amazing feeling. It's addicting. And once you do it, you don't stop. Betsy, learned so much from you in the past 3 years. Bet's in Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you, Bets. I appreciate that. I said Betsy. It's Bet's Y. I see. Scott, thank you. Let's see here. Boy, it just keeps going. Donna in Dubuque. Good morning, Louisiana. Robert, what's up? Ankur from India. Love and thanks. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here this morning. Donna, is 10 auditions a day reasonable for a beginner, or would burnout be a possibility, maybe 5? Well, here's the way. If part of my strategy is doing, we'll call cattle call auditions, like through pay-to-play sites. And by the way, Donna, if you're doing that many auditions, you say you're a beginner, I don't recommend getting on a pay-to-play site and starting that process of cattle call auditioning until you've got some experience and you've developed your auditioning skill set and you've got pro demos. Otherwise, that is you're taking an already challenging way to get work, regardless of how good you are, and you're making it nearly impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's easier if you're truly a beginner. It's easier to get on the free platforms. I think yesterday I mentioned things like Fiverr. It takes a while to get traction there, but at least you're not killing yourself with cattle call auditions. Fiverr, Upwork, Thumbtack, Voice Bunny. But for me, if that's part of my strategy, I know it takes me on average about 40 auditions to get one job on voices.com, because they keep those stats. Now, it used to be a lot more than that, but over time it's down to 40. And you may think, oh, geez, I thought you would do a 1 out of 10 or something like that. No. That's what I'm saying. You've got to set your expectations. It's just a lot of work. So going back to your point, if I'm doing 10 auditions a day, that's 50 auditions a week. At my rate of booking a job, 1 out of 40, that means I'm going to book like 1.1 on average job a week. So I might get between 4 and 5 jobs a month. So that's how I look at it, because I know what my numbers are. For me, I would do 20 a day, but that's me. I'm not saying you should. I'm saying I would, because 100 a week, that's going to mean I average almost 2.5 jobs a week. So what's that? That's 8. It's about 10 jobs a month. And hopefully one of those becomes a repeat client. But I look everything through the system, the numbers, the math. Once you know your numbers, then it's just a matter of adjusting the numbers to get what you want. Robert says his mom says he has a face for radio. Oh, come on. I'm sure your mom would never say that to you. Okay. Oh my gosh. We've been on for a long time, haven't we? And I've got recording to do here. Let's see here. Robert, good morning. Agrippa the Gamer, good morning from Anchorage. Robert, WKRP in Cincinnati. Wow. Scott, St. Louis, what's up? By the way, love WKRP. The turkey drop for the Thanksgiving Day promotion is epic. YouTube it. It's got to be on there. WKRP turkey drop. If you didn't see that episode, it's hilarious. Jake, Lake Wawasee is between Fort Wayne and South Bend. Oh, I wasn't even close. It's Indiana's largest inland natural lake. I did not know that, John. How about that? And I live not terribly far from South Bend at one point in time. Patrick in Kenya, how are you doing this morning? Scott, first job at KRGI, $1,200 a month. The good old days, right? You could live on that back then in Grand Island. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. We barely lived on it, but you do what you have to do. So there's a question about, does the voiceover blueprint apply to those who, like he's in Singapore, he's an Asian with a neutral accent? Yeah, that's a good question, Barry. And it applies really. I've got students. I don't have anybody from China currently in the program. Europe, yes. We've done Russia, some other places, I believe. So the principles, they do apply. In other words, this is not how to market to an American audience. This is how to market yourself regardless of where you're at. And the great thing is there's demand for voiceover all over the world. So, yeah, check it out. First link in the description below. Love to have you in the program. Michael, what's up? Max in fabulous Las Vegas. Guys, thanks for being here. It was a treat, and thanks for graciously allowing me to share my story with you this morning. I hope you find something in there that's helpful. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.